The last question.
All right.
What should I do if I have nothing to say in the speaking portion of the exam?
So this happens all the time.
It's like you're stunned. Like some people
Yeah.
just get stunned. Okay.
They do. They get stunned, or you're thinking of so many things, right, in the exam. We talked about the scoring system in those 4 areas. In writing, in speaking, they're very similar. So often people are answering a question, but you're really thinking of which grammar form should I use? Which words did the examiner use? Because I don't want to use those words. I want to use kind of a variation of those words so I can improve my vocabulary score. Am I really answering this question? How are we doing with timing? All this type of stuff, right? So there's a lot going through your mind. It happens quite a bit where maybe the question is, or I'll ask you a question, okay? What's your favorite book?
Angels and Demons.
All right, so you saw like the delay in there? Okay, that's a great book too. I haven't thought about that. But the examiner can't say that. And so sometimes people will
Pause. Yeah.
pause, or it's just something you haven't thought of in a long time, right? That's it. And they're not really thinking of their favorite book. They're often thinking of grammar forms and stuff like that, right? The examiner, it doesn't matter which book you say. It's not a lie detector test. You can say any book, and it's good. I mean, for the examiners, it doesn't matter. They're really looking at your grammar. They're really looking at if you're answering a question, the structure you're using, pronunciation, and that type of thing. So really answer the questions and extend your answer. So it's something we're going to see quite a bit. Well, we're going to do an exam. We'll see. I'll give you a tip, I guess, already. And it is something that people sometimes make mistakes on, right? Where they think it's similar to the listening exam, where the common example I give all the time is what's your favorite sport? Hockey. For an examiner, you're sitting there and you're, why? Because it's fun. Now for an examiner, what did that candidate give me to assess? Nothing. That's exactly it, right? And that can be, I would say that's really common with native speakers or people who are really advanced. Meanwhile, maybe the next candidate will be a candidate from China, India, Middle East, wherever. Anyway, maybe somebody who studied English for 2 years, 3 years. And this candidate knows IELTS. So his response would be, so maybe the examiner asks, what is your favorite sport? And that candidate, what I want to hear usually is something like, the physical activity I love the most is definitely hockey, because...
Okay.
So what a difference between this person who studied English for like 2 years, 3 years maybe, and maybe a native speaker who just doesn't know the exam. And just from that little section, who would get the higher score?
Of course, the one that's more elaborate.
Exactly.
So it helps to be a talkative one, right? It's like me,
Yeah.
you keep talking regardless.
Yes, and the examiner will cut you off anyway. And they're not, they're not being rude or anything like that. It's just they have a certain time that they need to keep. And so, be talkative. Keep going. I mean, give the examiner as much as you can, because you're helping him or her to help you get that high score.
But also the examiner, whatever he says, must also have a substance in the sense that, like, everything must be okay.
Yeah, are you answering the question, right? So if the question is, what's your favorite sport, and you start talking about dolphins or something.
Yes.
Right, okay, so this person memorized something on dolphins and had to say it. And you can't really do that. But that's why, again, it's a 14-minute speaking interview, right?
That's long.
So the dolphins thing, or the person who took the exam 67 times because you're waiting for the health question, that's going to be 30 seconds of the 14 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So you need to strategize for the whole exam.
Okay. As the test examiners, there's a protocol. My personal question, is there a protocol for test examiners on how they should speak, how they should look? Because in many aspects, in human nature, I would say, people actually get stunned when they're intimidated, or when they perhaps get attraction with the examiner or something like that. But is there a standard protocol with examiners?
Yes. So everything's recorded. So that's
Yeah.
the first thing. If people don't know this, it kind of shocks them sometimes when they go into an exam room, and the examiner will open the door and have the like a digital recorder in his hand or her hand, because you're being recorded the minute you walk into that room until the door closes when you leave, right? That is for you. To make sure that the examiner is being a perfect examiner in terms of assessment and all that kind of thing. And if there's ever a complaint or something like that as well, the examiner trainer, the administrator would take a look at it. It's incredibly rare though for that. So for examiners as well, there is a kind of like a customer service portion of it as well, right? So you can't see, but I'm smiling under this mask, right? And usually we call it like the Mona Lisa smile, when you're examining, because you ask a question and you're listening as an examiner. For the examiners, they're listening and they're really assessing things and putting it into those. We talk about the 4 elements there, but really within those there's a lot, and it's a lot of concentration that an examiner needs to really make sure they're giving you the perfect score.
Plus, it's recorded anyway, so they go back to
absolutely. So the examiner himself or herself can go back to listen to that conversation, and a senior examiner can go and take a look at that one as well. So it's to keep everything really, really, really professional. And even in terms of IELTS, if you're taking the exam in Melbourne, Australia, or you're taking the exam in Colombia, in Bogota, Colombia, it should be the exact same exam. The questions will be different, but really the examiners have the same training. The room will look the same even. The timing is going to be the exact same. The procedures you go through will be very much the exact same. Yep. Sometimes something that people can find a little bit intimidating can be just the professionalism, I guess, or the stoicism of the examiners. Yeah. Because, you want to talk to people, it's fun, right?
Yeah.
But for a candidate, maybe you walk into the exam and you'll say, hi, how are you? And the examiner will just kind of smile because they can't say anything, right? They can't answer your questions, right? It has to be a standard exam, a perfectly standard exam in every country in the world. Sometimes people, what we talked about before, right? Sometimes the examiner will cut you off. And it doesn't mean like he's angry at you or anything like that, right? Yeah. It just means he wants to, he's saying, okay, you've covered this topic. Yeah. Or maybe you're not answering it the way you should, so he wants to clarify something or something like that. And that's okay too. Other times, even for the examiners, it gets difficult because sometimes they can ask someone a question and maybe the candidate tells this amazing story. And then the next question is, do you like flowers? And the candidate's like, yeah. Why? Because and all that, right? So even for the examiners, it's got to be really standard, the exact same exam all the way through. In terms of the kind of the human element that you're asking about, it's so standardized that the training for examiners is so specific. They're constantly monitored, and if they make a mistake or something like that, it's kind of handled internally anyways, so it doesn't affect the candidate, right? Okay, a question people ask sometimes too, they'll say, is there a difference between an IDP IELTS exam or a British Council exam? And no. Examiners work for both organizations. Like I said, it's really, really standard. So if you're taking it in Montreal, Canada here, the examiners might work for IDP here or school affiliated with IDP over here. And if you take it in maybe a different section of Montreal, maybe it's a British Council center. But you know what? Same examiners, because they work with both, right? So I think it answers the question, but if you're a bit worried about the examiner maybe not agreeing with your opinion, or maybe you say a book and you say, oh no, the examiner won't like this book.
Okay, so there's no right or wrong answer.
No right or wrong answers. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, good to know.
Yeah, it's all about the content. It's all about the grammar and whether or not you are answering the question. Even if you have a question about, let's say in writing, for example, okay? So let's say you're referring to a government study or something like that as a way to prove your opinion that children should get work experience before they graduate from high school. and you're referring to a study out of Colombia, and the study isn't real, or the study isn't perfect. You can't remember the exact numbers that they mentioned. Doesn't matter. The examiner's not going to go and Google this or anything like that, right? He's really looking at how you're developing that argument. It's not a lie detector test. It is an English language exam.
Wow. So
you're going to take one pretty soon. So.
Yes. So on the next video, Kyle Broda is going to test my speaking, and we'll post it as soon as it's done. But thanks everyone for watching this. Very informative. Actually, I'd like to thank you. I've learned something myself. Now we can go with my speaking. Yes. Well, I hope that I retain something here, because we're gonna do it on the spot with Kyle Broda and Marjorie Quinzos.
All right. See you next video, guys.
See you.